Hello and welcome to another episode of the Influence Economy podcast. I'm your host, Shayna Davis, and I'm so glad that you're here. But before I get started, I would love if you would do me a favor. Wherever it is that you are listening to this episode, I would love if you would take a screenshot, post it on your social media, and tag us here. And I just want to hear your biggest aha moment or your biggest takeaway from this episode because I believe that many leaders are not really equipped for where it is that we're going in the next decade, and many companies are also not developing their leaders in the way that they need to lead to win in this next decade. But everybody doesn't know where to start. And so, the more times that these episodes are shared, the more that people will be able to use their influence as an asset. And so, I thank you so much for being willing to share. So, today is a special episode because this is a transition episode. And as we do many times throughout our shows as podcast host, we change the direction that the show is going in, whether it is because our businesses are going in a different direction, perhaps it's just a new season with a new focus of the show. And this one is no different. This is a transitional episode for where it is that we're going, where it is that we are going as leaders, where it is that we are going as companies. There are a lot of things that are going on in the world and in the market, and we have to be mindful of how it is that we are leading in this new world that we are finding ourselves in. And I am wanting to shift in. I am wanting to shift and broaden the conversation. So, you've probably noticed something as it pertains to influence. Influence, it isn't new anymore. We've been living in, you know, that this is called the Influence Economy podcast. And we've been living in what I call the influence economy for years. Visibility, credibility, reputation, all of those things, they've become the currency for success. Is the currency, I believe, when we think about our visibility, especially our external visibility. When we think about whether or not we're leading with credibility, whether we're representing ourselves as leaders and the companies that we're ambassadors for in a credible way, when we're thinking about the reputation that we are putting out there as the leader and of the companies that we represent, I do believe that that is currency. I believe that that is going to be the currency that every leader in every company is going to have to succeed in the new world. But here's the truth that most people aren't saying out loud rather, is that the influence economy, like that needs to evolve. Some of the terminology that we've used in leadership, some of the ways that we've been looking at influence, that needs to evolve. And as I'm evolving in my own influence, I'm also taking the audience of my show and the audience of my clients, everyone who is in my ecosystem, I'm taking them on that evolution. When I first started this show, my focus was helping experts and entrepreneurs turn their influence into income. And that work, it still matters, but over time, I just started seeing the same dynamics that was happening in the entrepreneurship and the expert spaces. I was seeing those same dynamics like play out in boardrooms, in leadership meetings, in executive suites, because for over 21 years now, I've had large organizations as my clients. I'm a consultant and advisor to tech companies, Fortune 100, Fortune 500, mid-sized companies. And I'm seeing that the same principles that help entrepreneurs grow their visibility are now the ones determining how corporate leaders and organizations build trust, how they shape perception, and how they create measurable impact. For years, influence, in my opinion, it was seen as like a personal brand play. Like influence was only for influencers, it was only for people who had a personal brand. And it was all about be visible, get noticed, attract opportunities. But visibility without direction is just noise. And in today's environment, you know, trust is fragile, attention is scarce. Leaders and companies, they can't afford to just be seen. They have to be seen as credible, they have to be seen as strategic, and they also have to be seen as relevant. I don't think that influence is just for entrepreneurs that are trying to sell programs. In my thinking, it's like it's now a business skill, a leadership advantage, and a competitive differentiator. And over the years, I've helped women entrepreneurs build brands that attract opportunities, that attract media, that attract money. But the deeper that I went with that, the clearer it became that influence has outgrown the entrepreneur. It's now, when I think about influence, it's now the measure of leadership itself. How leadership and how leaders communicate value, how they build confidence in their ideas, and lead people who don't report to them. That evolution, and that's the evolution that this show is stepping into. I want to just look at how are we not using influence as a personal leadership play. I wanted to look at how are we using it to shape the industries that we're in? How are we using it to allow our companies to shape the industries that they're in as well? And that's the evolution that this show is going to step into. And as part of this evolution, I think we have to redefine what executive presence really means. I actually don't even like the term executive presence. I use it because it's a term that is recognizable, but I believe that it's a term that's outdated. And I also believe that it's a term that doesn't really encompass what real presence is. Because for me, I think that like for far too long, like executive presence has been reduced to poise, polish, how you carry yourself in the room. It's been used as a tactic to advance your career. And I don't think it's just about that anymore. I think that in today's world, that definition is actually outdated. It's no longer about just how a leader looks or how they sound in a meeting. It's about how they're perceived in the outside world, especially when you are a leader or the leaders in your organization have to influence well externally, when they have to engage with external stakeholders, when you have to represent yourself and your company outside the walls of your company. That's, in my opinion, where presence really matters the most. Leaders today, they have to think about your leadership identity. Like, how are you positioned and what are you known for? Your thought leadership. How do you articulate your ideas that influence market and shape cultures? And I also think that you have to think about leadership branding, like the visual and verbal signals that you send every time you show up online, every time you're showing up in the media, every time you're showing up on the behalf of your company. Or if you're listening to this and you're a decision maker, you probably have leaders inside of your organization that are having to represent your company. And I don't want us to just limit this just to the people that are typically forward facing, like advertising, marketing, and sales. What about your tech leaders? What about your HR leaders that are sometimes the first line of defense? That they're the ones that have to talk to investors, potential employees, potential clients. Are they being developed in a way that they can actually represent your organization with the type of influence that is going to build credibility and is going to build trust? Because how a leader shows up externally, meaning what they say, what they share, what they signal, all of that can either build trust or it can break it. And it's time to expand the definition of what we've been calling executive presence from how you perform internally to how you influence externally. I think right now, at the time of this recording, it is the end, the last quarter of 2025. And we're in a marketplace and we're in a world where every single company is being defined by three powerful external signals. There's a war for talent, trust gaps are widening, and there's also, no doubt, relentless technological disruption, right? Through AI and all the things. And these forces are changing what it means to lead. It's not enough to have technical expertise or a polished LinkedIn profile. Leaders must now become visible ambassadors for themselves and for their companies. That means engaging with investors, clients, and customers in digital spaces. That means being seen in the media and on stages as credible voices for their industries. It means representing the company brand on social media with clarity and confidence and not saying things that are going to actually be PR nightmares or career limiting moves. It means translating internal expertise into external influence that attracts opportunity, that attracts trust, and also attracts talent. Can your leaders, especially your technical leaders, can they communicate complex ideas in a clear way that everybody gets it and understands? I think that this is the new performance standard for leadership. The leaders who learn to manage and project their external presence, those are going to be the ones who shape markets, attract top talent, and future proof their organizations. And if you're looking to advance your career, these are also the skills that are going to be required to get you picked, paid, and promoted. Because oftentimes we're not seen as strategic, we're seen as doers. We're not necessarily seen as thought leaders. We're not thinking about, like, just because I'm a brand, I work for a brand, I'm a brand inside of a brand, right? Like, have you thought about your leadership identity? Do you have a clear point of view? Because when you do, those are the skills that are going to help get you picked to lead initiatives. Those are the ones that are going to get you paid more, and those are the ones that are going to get you promoted, right? So these are the skills that you're going to have as the leaders to win in this next decade. And if you're listening to this and you're running organizations and you're running departments within organizations, these are the skills that your leaders are going to have to have. They're going to have to know how to treat this influence like an asset, and they're going to have to know how to embrace and embody this influence and this presence in order for your company to have a clear competitive advantage. So, if you've been part of this journey here on the show since the beginning, I want to thank you for growing with me. And if you're new to the show, welcome to What's Next, because we're moving from entrepreneurial visibility into executive impact and more leadership impact. We're moving from influence as image to influence as strategy. We're moving from being seen to being trusted. Because, again, in my opinion, in the decade ahead, this is going to be the currency that determines who wins, both for leaders and the companies that they represent. Because influence isn't just power; it's performance, and it was never meant to just be visible. It was meant to be bankable. So we have to leverage our influence as an asset, and that's where we are going from here. So I want to thank you for being here, and I ask that you share this episode with every leader and every decision maker that you know, and that you will go back and listen to previous and future episodes as well. Everyone, have a great day. Bye bye.